some insight with all the stakeholders in microfinance segment. So now we are officially starting this webinar. I'll ask Mr. Gigi Memon, our ED CEO, to set the context and start them.
Thank you, Sri, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. Good afternoon to all of you. As you are knowing that we have been following this practice of presenting the quarterly microfinance report through this webinar from the last quarter onwards. So this is the second one in that line, that order. So last QMR we presented in the first webinar which we had. So this is the second one. So henceforth we will be planning to do this only, that every quarterly microfinance report would be presented first, and then it will be distributed or released for the use of the stakeholders. See, quarterly microfinance report is a compilation of the data of what has happened during a particular quarter. We have been bringing an yearly report in the name of Bharat Microfinance for the last 24 years, where we give a full picture about the microfinance activities of the country. I mean, it's a sectoral report, which is not a Sa-Dhan report, I would say. It's a sectoral report. It is for the sector's development, because many of the stakeholders, like government, RBI, many other stakeholders, I mean, depend on our Bharat Microfinance report for the information and details. So it's a sectoral report. This has been happening for the last 20 years or so, or more than 20 years. And as a next step to Bharat Microfinance report, we thought that we should also have a quarterly update. So from 2015 onwards, I believe. Yeah. From 2015 onwards, we have been bringing this quarterly microfinance report, which is a supplement to the Bharat Microfinance report. So Bharat Microfinance report gives a full year position, and every quarter updation is given in through the quarterly microfinance. So this is what happening. So we had been sending these reports to various stakeholders, members, everyone, and so we thought that we should also have a discussion around. One is about the numbers of course, numbers you yourself can see it from the report. More than that, what this number represents, what kind of interpretations we can take, how the sector is moving. Seeing these numbers, can you make out some kind of a inference of what the situation around us and how we can take it forward? So this is what we are planning to do for this webinar. And we have also got a couple of senior members, industrial experts, I would say, who would also be able to give their perspective, their outlook about the sector, and based on these numbers, how things are looking and what kind of things we should be adhering to, how do we go forward. That would be here. So we will be opening up with the presentation by these Equifax first. Equifax is our one of the credit bureaus who have been supporting us with the numbers. So first we will have a presentation by the Equifax, who will give the numbers. Shruti is there with us. So thank you, Shruti, for joining, and welcome for this webinar. And she will first make the presentation, and then thereafter the two experts from our side would be giving their perspective. Thereafter it will be thrown open for discussions. So all are requested to give your views or give your suggestions, and let's make this a useful and a productive one. Thank you so much for joining, and once again, welcome to all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I'm requesting Shruti, please share a brief presentation on the Q1 data for the current time.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today, and thank you to the Sa-Dhan team, especially Gigi sir, for allowing us to represent the microfinance sector here on this platform. With that, I have a short presentation which I would like to share with you all, and hopefully that helps us have an understanding on how the microfinance industry is sort of looking today. Just give me a couple of seconds. I'm just opening my presentation for you all. I hope my screen is visible. Okay. We'll start with the first a couple of points. So this slide sort of shows the overall context of where the microfinance industry is today as of June. So the overall portfolio as of June is around 3,52,963 crores. On a year-on-year basis, we are seeing a reduction of around 17% over here. The active loans today stand at around 12.53 crores for the industry. This too has reduced, in line with the portfolio. The reduction is around 19.5% here. The disbursement that had happened in the first quarter of April, May, and June was around 58,000 crores. The 30 plus and 90 plus delinquency, these are calibrated up to 179 delinquency, 179 DPD. These stand at 6.08% and 90 plus stands at 3.64%. The 180 plus delinquency, which includes everything except write-off and closed loans, right now is at 13%. Sectorally, we are still seeing that NBFC MFIs continue to have the strength. They are continuing to lead, whether it be in portfolio disbursement or active loans, followed by private sector banks. So the sector dynamics after COVID had changed, wherein, NBFC MFIs had taken over banks and private sector banks, and that continues to remain. So this is just to sort of give a small layout of where where the microfinance industry is as of June. From here on, what we'll do is we'll move to some trended data to see overall performance on a year-on-year basis. So overall, if we look at how the disbursements have panned out in this last 1 year, what we are seeing is that overall disbursement in terms of volume, which is number of loans, have seen a reduction of 40% from almost 8 lakh loans which were getting disbursed to almost 4.84 lakh now. So again, there is quite a bit of a difference over there. Share of the pie wise sectoral data, if we see lender category, we are seeing pretty much the share remains the same, nothing much has changed. Amount wise, of course, we are seeing a reduction of 32% from 3.84 lakh crores to 2.6 lakh crores. This is last 1 year, July 23 June 24 to July 24 June 25. So basically these disbursements that we are showing you are the disbursements for the last 1 year. Now, as you see, categorically, we are seeing that the amount has gone, has not seen that much of a reduction as number of loans, which takes us to our next point, that the average ticket size of the industry has overall moved up. So in this last 1 year, the industry has seen an average ticket size move up from 47,920 rupees to almost 53,837 rupees. Now, specifically, if we look at the NBFC segment, that has seen the highest ATS today. So average ticket size for the NBFC segment is as high as 65,641 rupees, as per the data that we are seeing in Equifax. Overall, now when we are looking at the delinquencies, and again the 30 plus delinquencies that we are showing you are calibrated up to 179 DPD. Overall delinquencies, if we look at the curve from June 24, the industry saw its peak in December 24. So from 2.89% in June 24, the delinquencies peaked at 6.99%. By June 25, this number has gone down to 5.98%. So, we have seen a substantial reduction in the delinquency in the early bucket, and that's a good sign. That's a positive sign that we are seeing for the industry, because up until now, till the last 2 quarters, we were only witnessing a delinquency increase. For the first time, we are witnessing some flattening and a reduction in delinquency. So, again, it's a good sign that the microfinance industry is going through for a change. 90 plus delinquencies as well, from 1.33% went up to 3.92% in December. Then again, it's at 3.57%. So again, as the early bucket delinquency stress starts to ease out, it moves on to the later bucket. So in the month of March, we were seeing the early buckets of 1 plus sort of having their stress eased out. And by now we are seeing that, the flow over happening in the 90 plus as well. Now, while analyzing the delinquency, we were wondering that what is it that is contributing really to these very high delinquency. So what we did is we did the analysis by 2 different cohorts. So one, we looked at the ticket size, and the other we looked at the lender type. So I will first talk about the top graph that you are seeing, which is the ticket size. So when we looked at overall delinquency and divided it by ticket size categories of less than 30, 30 to 50, 50 to 70, and greater than 70, what we saw is that 30 plus and 3 MOB to 30 plus and 6 MOB. So which shows that, how much the overall lag delinquency is increasing. Maximum delinquency is going up for less than 30,000. So what we are witnessing is that lag delinquency is highest for less than 30,000 segment. As we go up the ticket size, this, sort of streamlines. So the point being that the lowest ticket size segment is the most susceptible to the highest delinquencies. Similarly, an analysis was done for different types of lender categories. So NBFCs, NBFC MFI, SFBs, private sector bank, specifically these lender categories. And when we saw this, again, we were trying to ascertain that which is the lender category that is, sort of more susceptible and the one which is less susceptible to delinquency. What we are seeing is that the NBFC category has the most, is the strongest in comparison to all the other cohorts in managing the 30 plus and 3 MOB to 30 plus and 6 MOB. So this sort of shows that, overall collection strength is more for the NBFC segment compared to all the other three segments. So this data, by itself shows the strength of some of the sectors, and also, in terms of delinquency increase, where the inherent weakness lies. Now, this is important. While we are seeing a reduction of delinquencies, we feel this is important to understand because this sort of shows where the main stress areas were, and if the industry is to sort of go back to the golden period that it was witnessing, it needs to take care of some of these things in those moments. What we've also done is, while we didn't want to, take a lot of your time and talk about, how different states, districts, etc. are doing, we did want to show you that, how overall the top states have moved in this last 1 year. So overall, you see the top 10 states, and top 10 is basically put basis the outstanding. So since Bihar has the highest portfolio outstanding today, you see it as the top state. Overall, we are seeing a degrowth across states. Delinquencies have gone up, whether it's a 90 plus delinquency as of June or the overall increase. Some of the states which we have seen have witnessed inherent increase in delinquency. One is the state of Karnataka. We are seeing the disbursements, POS has gone down quite a bit. Delinquencies has risen by almost 9%. And as lenders, I'm sure you're aware of the reasons, the underlying reasons why that's happened. And this is mostly after the ordinance. Odisha is another state where we are seeing very, very high changes in terms of delinquency again, almost a 3% change, if we round off those numbers. Bihar, again, the topmost state, is one of the states which is seeing, a drastic change in delinquencies. But overall, again, state numbers are also looking positive in these last 2 quarters, and, things are looking on the positive side. Hopefully, if this trend continues, we will see a spillover effect, and, things hopefully should start getting back to normal. So quickly, we also wanted to show you some aging analysis that we have done. So this is basically the 30 plus delinquencies that you are seeing on your screen, and this is 30 to 179 again. A couple of things which I wanted to bring to your notice. Specifically, if we look at different sourcing quarters, for example, if we look at January, February, March of 23, and we look at the 3 MOB data, we see that the 3 MOB overall disbursement delinquency was at around 0.32%. Same number if we compare to JFM 24, that is at around 0.45%. Similarly, if we look at the 6 MOB data and we look at the AMJ cohort, AMJ 23, which was at 0.93%, actually has gone up to 3.49%. So the point I'm trying to make is that the industry was seeing a very high increase in overall delinquencies. However, if we look at just the 3 MOB cohort, right now, we saw that the delinquencies in AMJ 24 went up to 0.81%. By July, August, September, it was at 1.42%. And by OND 24, it has come down to 0.75%. So again, if you look at the last, bracket on the screen, whether it's 3 MOB, OND 24 or 6 MOB JAS 24, you will see that the overall numbers have reduced compared to the previous, the previous block. So what I'm trying to say is that while the overall situation compared to a year back is we are still not in the same territory, it's still not stable, but overall we have started witnessing lower delinquencies for the early buckets. Now this again is very promising because for the first time we are seeing these reductions, and that is flowing over till the 9 MOB, as you see. Till 12 MOB still has to take that effect. Overall, if we look at vintage analysis now, and when we are showing you the vintage, we are including everything, including the write-offs. Now, over here, for industry 60 plus, what we have seen is that this typical vintage graph that you are seeing, right, which is a huge flagging and, which has a lot of spacing in itself, that's not a very positive graph for any industry to be in. So usually these flags in a vintage chart is not good. I mean, the spacing is not good. This shows that, there is a lot of stress going on in the industry. And as lenders, we are aware of the stress situation. Now, the good part is that the latest data, which is JFM 23, we have started witnessing some relief over here. And, again, for the first, which is, JS 24, we have started witnessing some relief over here, which is flowing further into AMJ 24, etc. So, we have started witnessing some relief, and overall the flattening or the flagging, as we call it, of these vintage curves have reduced. So again, this is a positive trend that we are seeing for the industry. Overall, if we look at customer classification in terms of, how the lender's behavior is in terms of customers, and this is very critical because we have Sa-Dhan as an SRO, suggesting to customers that the more the number of lenders, the riskier it gets. So if we look at this from data perspective, what we've done is we have looked at different time period cohorts. So for example, if you see March 24, we saw that almost 96% of the customers were in 0 DPD and around 1% in all other delinquency bucket up to 179. By December 24, this 96% current or 0 DPD customers fell to 92%, and 3% went in the other bucket, which is 1 to 29 DPD, and 1%, in the other buckets. For the first time, we are seeing, that by March 25, this 92% has remained 92%. Otherwise, we were always seeing a deterioration. Now, if we compare this to the greater than 4 lenders, so customers who have more than 4 lender loans, we saw that 88% of these customers were current in March 24. This number fell to 65% in December. And, of course, all the other categories, we are seeing an increase in terms of delinquency. By March 25, again, this number has been 59%. So we are seeing that while 1 and 2 lender categories are remaining stable, there is still a deterioration we are witnessing both for 3 and 4 lender categories. So that's again something that the industry does need to look out for and does need to be mindful of, because that deterioration is continuing even in the current scenario. What we've also done is we have looked at overall how the EMI change and delinquency change, has had an effect. Now, the idea is to sort of look at whether there was a correlation or no. So, certain interesting things that we are seeing, for example, is that as the EMI changes, for example, the state of Karnataka, we are seeing that the EMI changes around by around 45%. The overall change in 30 plus DPD also is around 10%. So for the states of Karnataka, for the states of Odisha, for the state of Maharashtra, we are seeing a direct correlation between an EMI increase or a leverage increase, so to speak, and a delinquency increase. For some of the other states, we are not seeing an immediate impact. But again, we do feel that as we look at this through a more elongated time period, we will start witnessing, a direct correlation between a leverage change and a delinquency change. So this is also an interesting data point that we are looking at or tracking from a bureau perspective. With that being said, I mean, I have taken up a lot of time and, tried to share some of the analysis which we felt from a bureau perspective are very, very critical points. I may not have covered all the points because of the time limitation, but if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take it towards the end. Yeah, Shri, going back to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Shruti, for the detailed presentation. Now I'm requesting Mr. Kiran Kumar, MD of Smoman. Sir, could you please share your insight on the data and on the sector itself right now?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Hi. Yeah. So, a very good afternoon to all of you, and thanks a lot to Gigi sir for inviting me to just put some thoughts on how the sector is evolving. So, as you can see, I think I don't need to reiterate. I think last 1 year has been very tough for all of us, especially starting the issue started as an indebtedness issue where the heat wave, the elections, and the high spike in disbursements just prior to elections took a toll through the year. But then the issue on defaults now is changing. The narrative is more towards liquidity and the political stress in Karnataka. So I think now the situation is completely different from indebtedness. I think one of the data points I'm sure Equifax also pointed out, and this came up in the CRIF report as well, if I'm not mistaken, is that the number of customers with more than four lenders, the share has been drastically coming down. Earlier, it used to be nearly 10 to 15%. Now, if you look at the data, I think that has been sorted. That has come down below 3 to 4%. So, at least on the indebtedness side, because of the guardrails that we've implemented, a lot of success has come through in terms of reducing the share of these highly indebted customers in the MFI scope. So, from our side, as we are kind of trying to rebuild the sector from here on, a couple of thoughts that I wanted to summarize even beyond the bureau data is MFI sector, as you know, has been built on fundamentals of center meetings and strong governance on the field staff. Somewhere due to these collection issues, there is door-to-door collection happening and a lot of PAR 0 plus increasing. The MFI fundamentals are getting broken, and I think this ripple effect is being felt because customers are not getting subsequent loans, which is in turn increasing the default rate. So we have to kind of be mindful that the good customers should still be supported, and we should, as a industry body, we should go back to center meeting, rigor, because at the end of the day, are kind of taking a beating, right? So without center meeting, irrespective of joint liability working or not working, I'm not going to comment on that. But without center meeting, the ticket size itself is between 50,000 to 1 lakh. So from an OPEX standpoint, the door-to-door collection model will not be sustainable. So I think as all of us, if we start insisting on center meeting, now the number of customers with four or more loans are anyways coming down. So these customers, we used to say earlier, look, they are carrying 3, 4 loans. That's why they are not able to attend center meeting. That logic doesn't work anymore because now we are not giving loans to those customers anymore, right? So the rigor of center meeting has to be re-established, and the collection rigor has to be re-established in the location of center meeting. This helps us mitigate both coercive recovery from an RBI standpoint. The customers will be more comfortable and we don't need to do doorstep recovery in these cases. And the second thing is operationally also it's beneficial for us, right? So that is the first, I think we have to rebuild the entire center meeting, which is the most critical as we are getting out of this crisis atmosphere and PAR is starting to come down. The second most important thing is all of us have to also think about credit policy very clearly in terms of what kind of customers are we onboarding. As you saw prior to March 24, we had a lot of leeway in terms of how every entity defines their own credit policy. RBI had given us the freedom to define credit policy as per our risk appetite. And I think some of the data points that Equifax has shown, already throws light on how the risk increases exponentially if the number of lenders are increasing. And as you can see from one lender, if there is one lender or two lenders, the repayment rate is around 90%. And if there are four lenders, the repayment rate is falling to nearly 55%. And as all of you know, at 55%, microfinance model is not sustainable. Essentially, you're talking about 45% loss rate. So in that case, why should we originate new loans for these customers, right? So credit policy, I think going forward, every entity has to be very robust in terms of how the credit policy is implemented. We have to be robust in terms of tracking the credit bureau and looking at number of loans. Because it's in our own benefit to build a very PAT positive kind of a portfolio. Portfolio by itself doesn't mean anything. It's only if it's PAT positive, it has an impact for all of us. So if we build decisioning based on being PAT positive, I think all of us will take the right call. So that is the second, kind of guidance as we kind of look forward to building the sector together. And the third guidance is around staff and governance itself. As when collection trouble comes, that's when we face a lot of staff challenges as well. The attrition is becoming very high, and the number of frauds are increasing by the day. So, in fact, I feel a lot of the NPA, at least 30 to 40% of the NPA, might be due to staff themselves as well. So, we as a sector have to kind of get up and get that rigor back in terms of monitoring our staff and take very strict action in case any untoward incidents are happening. This is for the benefit of the sector as well, and for the benefit of the NBFC, MFIs, and NBFC and the respective players as well. Because if the staff monitoring breaks, as you know that just leads to NPA performing suffering, and it also leads to regulatory issues later when customers start complaining, right? So, and we have to kind of get back to the respect that the sector commanded, even from a customer standpoint. So, I think these are the broad 3 points I had in mind, and I'm sure from Sa-Dhan's standpoint, one of the key issues that we are debating, and Gigi can throw more light on it, is how do line to be open for this year as things are normalizing. I think some of these data points on PAR 0+ trends and how things are slowly coming back to normal, excluding Karnataka and including Karnataka, need to be presented to all the public sector banks and maybe some of the private banks as well, and take them into confidence that over the long term the sector has sustained. There is still potential in the sector as we try to kind of cover more households. And most critical aspect for us is getting the funding back. So I think that's one area from an SRO standpoint that I would request Sa-Dhan to also ensure that that information goes to all the major lenders to the sector. Because at the end of the day, bank term loans continue to be the majority source of funding for the entire NBFC MFI specifically. So that will be one area I would request, Gigi to kind of take this up.
Definitely. In fact, thank you, Kiran. I think you raised a very, very important point as far as funding is concerned, because slowly now the stress is moving towards the liquidity.
Correct.
That is adding more liquidity stress to the sector. But then I'm sure things would get better now. For information,
challenge as NPAs are coming under control, and I'm sure based on the provisioning policy for this year, a lot of the provisions will be coming through this year. So we have to think about how do we talk to the lenders and get them on board with this fact that even though some of the metrics might look high in this year, it will be stabilizing going forward as the sector NPAs are coming down. So that is the message we have to kind of reiterate.
2 weeks back, we were in Bombay and we were meeting different institutions, heads of different banks. Like we met Chairman State Bank of India, MD Bank of Baroda, then ED from Bank of India, DMDs of both NABARD and SIDBI. We were trying to see, and even we met the MD of Punjab and Sindh Bank. We're trying to push the things, and yesterday we got a positive response from the State Bank of India asking for a list of MFIs with triple B and above, I believe, isn't it? Or triple B. So I'm saying because otherwise they were sticking themselves to A only.
Correct.
So probably things will look better now. We'll be definitely working from our side to see how best things can be pushed so that more funding is available. And with the government also, we are taking up, and we'll see. Sometimes we also getting some kind of an indication that they may come out with some kind of a support to the sector. Let us wait for it. But it's an important thing. It's very important, and that is only can take us forward. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Thank you.
Yeah. So, in fact, we were to have one more speaker, but then last minute he had to drop out because of some personal reasons. So we would be now requesting the members who are participating for this webinar, if you have any points to raise, if you have any views to be expressed, it's a time for you to do that. Can we hear something from our senior people who are present here? Sunil is here. We have Ganesh is there. I believe Ganesh Madhav is there. Then Merikar Saab is there. So if you can give your views on that, that would be great. On the particular numbers which Shruti has presented, or something general you would like to, some general perspective you would like to bring out, you can do that. Merikar Saab, you would like to say something? Yeah, then you unmute, please. Unmute. You are muted. Merikar.
Yes. Don't say me Saab. we are not Saab anymore. Actually, the presentation made by Shruti, that is really interesting one. Only 2-3 aspects I just wanted to mention. That when we were talking about the fall in the disbursements or this thing. So now, since the data from Section 8 is not there, so this might be one reason that there are certain things that has not come up. Secondly, whatever Mr. Kiran has raised, it's the real fact that unless and until the disbursements, the recoveries, meetings are made compulsory, that will only lead.
Please go on. Stop.
So he's dropped out.
Okay, I think it looks that he has dropped out. Anybody else would like to? Sunil Saab? Sunil Jadli? Akhil Saab, yeah, I think you should, let's hear from you. You are a veteran.
He's dropped.
Okay, I think it looks that he has dropped out. Anybody else would like to? Sunil Saab? Sunil Jadli? Akhil Saab, yeah, I think you should, let's hear from you.
Okay, thank you, Ji sir. Sorry, I joined a little late, and the reason was that we were having a call with this.
Anybody else would like to? Sunil Saab? Sunil Jadli?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's hear.
Okay, thank you, Ji sir. Sorry. I think there is some lag.
Akhil sir, please share your views.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I was not getting the admission in the call because there were too many participants, I believe. So I was on the live stream. That's the reason. So now I got the chance to log in. Thank you very much. The reason for me to get a little late was I was having a call with the staff. They were doing our quarterly monitoring review, and the first fundamental question they asked us, when are you going to rebuild your portfolio? And my simple question to them was, when are we going to get the money to rebuild the portfolio? And particularly with ISAF being a genesis from microfinance, being a development institution, I was expecting that their board will take a little positive position towards small and medium MFIs or even larger ones. And he said, our board has very clearly said recently that for the sector as a whole, we'll be holding on and not disbursing any money for onward lending. So when institutions like DFIs, I think it's very important first that DFIs like SIDBI, NABARD, we need to have a very persistent and regular meetings with them to really get their commitment to support small and medium MFIs to bring the money. I think now we cannot move from one quarter to the other and say things will improve in third quarter. This is the time now that we have to first work with the DFIs. They should be the first one to come to rescue the sector. The second is, I think, sir, Gigi sir, what you have been working on the credit guarantee scheme. I think it's time now that matter need to be closed. Government should take a position whether they are going to come with a credit guarantee scheme or not, because that's the only way the PSU banks are going to, or the banks are going to show some kind of confidence in lending the money to the. So I think instead of bringing too many issues, we should have a charter on focusing on one or 2 points in terms of what need to be done with the external stakeholders, with regard to our strategy with regard to DFIs and our strategy with regard to PSUs and the private banks. That's on one side. Second, of course, as Kiran has rightly mentioned, we as microfinance institution need to internally work on. So as Sa-Dhan, as an SRO, 2 or 3 main charter points for remaining 7 months. We are already end of August. So this financial year is also moving very fast. Like staff is very critical. Staff behavior, staff attrition, and the ethics of the staff. The ethics, again the ambition or the whole this whole movement which is moving from GLG to individual lending to back to GLG. This I think this discussion need to be now settled down, that we need to coexist, whether these are 2 or 3 strong pillars on which the entire sector need to be built in. I think an expert opinion or a statement should come which gives a very clear direction. Otherwise, there is too much of pendulum movement. Should I give up GLG? Should I go into MSME? Should I go from MSME back to GLG? Secured, unsecured, micro lab. So I think this is where a position paper should be published now, sir. It's very important. We need to have a knowledge product on this, where and the caution notes that some of us may fall into temptation of moving away from JLG, but whether we have institutional capacity, do we have credit underwriting capacities to deal with the MSME loans of a ticket size of 1 lakh, 1,50,000? Are we going to hit ourselves in the sector worse if we go half-baked? Are we going into serving a half-baked dish? Because I may not have the institutional capacity, but my peer pressure is so much that I'm being pushed in that direction. Or somebody comes and says, we can give you money for this, but not for this. So I think I'll stop here. My submission would be that we need to have 1 or 2 charter points, and now it's time to start closing them rather than discussing them. I think we had enough of consultation discussion. And I think last time what you mentioned was very important in our roundtable for strategy, that you need to have a task force now, a working task force. We need to commit our time, and that task force along with you need to work very closely to take to the logical conclusion these discussions. We need to conclude this discussion. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I'm requesting Mr. Jaideep Ghosh from Jagran Microfinance to share his views.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So I think whatever Kiran said and whatever Akhilji has now pointed out, they cover most of the points. There's nothing much to say except for action to be happening on the ground at this juncture. Because if I have to point out the one problem which we are facing, the liquidity crisis is the biggest. Right? If the liquidity crisis is the biggest, then NABARD just can't hide behind the fact that 500 crores and above is all we do. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the asset class is the same for whether it's a small MFI or a large one. You're catering to the same borrower. It's not any different. So the ratings really don't hold no meaning. Probably a grading does. So somewhere if the SRO could really look at a grading process or sort of a COCA sort of a rating as a requirement instead of looking at the sizes, then a lot of it could be eased out. I'm not sure about the government guarantee because it might take its own sweet time. And if it takes 3 months more, then it will be a problem for everybody. September results, I don't know how they're going to look. And then it might become another problem, because if 1 or 2 people fall by the wayside, then the entire sector will again be sort of, painted in a bad way. To avoid that, we definitely have to look at fundraising immediately. We are going to miss the festival season anyway, right? But on the other hand, if we can work now, probably the last quarter can actually make some sense. All of us have shrunk. I mean, when I think pre-COVID, we were almost touching 500 crores. I'm a small MFI still. But right now we are around at 250. So it's about a 50% sort of a degrowth over the last 4 to 5 years. And in between, there's been rise and fall, etc., etc. But the consistency which was there in fund flows, that has somehow suddenly, it is not predictable anymore. Either we do that NABARD or SIDBI story, the bank story, I don't know, or we look at a set of NBFCs who can actually be trained to actually start lending to the MFI sector, right? If we could do that, build up a case study, and the large MFIs, the large NBFCs which are there, they also have a lot of funds at their disposal. If you could try and work out some sort of program with them, I think that might also help, because everybody's trying their luck with the large ones, right? So in a very sort of disparate manner, if you could come together, list out the NBFCs who can actually lend and start looking at them. And I'm not speaking for the large ones. The large ones could lend to us anyway. I'm talking about the NBFCs outside the sector, which are large enough to be looking at the sector and putting in maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 crores for the small and medium MFIs. It might work as a parallel thing. And the SROs could help us in sort of, building a case. That's basically all I have to say. The rest of the challenges which come with a shrinking portfolio are always going to be there. Your delinquencies will look higher. You might keep fighting with the data, but it will start looking higher, and the numbers will start looking worse. So the only way to do it is to increase the top line. So I'm just hoping that things work out now. We can do a lot of analysis on the data, but it will not really start looking any better, because the bottom line, I mean, the denominator effect is going to take its toll. So that being said, it's slightly bleak, but I'm still hoping that overall the numbers and the sort of effort which is being taken by both the SROs, Sa-Dhan as well as MFIN, will help us sort of tide over the crisis. And then we'll have probably the last 6 months of the year will be better than the first 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Now I'm requesting if anyone have any query regarding the data and any point to be made, please share, because Shruti has to go. So it will be better if you have any query regarding the data or any trends, you can definitely, or any challenges you think need to be highlighted here, please highlight. You can also put your points on the chat.
It's open for discussion, so I would request those who would like to give their views or want to raise some points, please do that. Please show
So,
your
Gigi sir,
hand.
I have
Yeah.
Gigi sir, I have one. Yeah. So, Gigi sir, in the context of the data, what I was actually just wondering is now all these details are essentially for the microfinance customers. Now we do not necessarily have any trend of the same customer in their retail side. So if from the credit bureau side, if that can be sort of also be reviewed and shared with the members, we could get a nice insight into the actual situation at the customer's end. So I'll repeat, JJ sir, I'll repeat. The data, whatever is accumulated is on the microfinance loan.
Right.
Now the same customer, if at all he or she has, say, a retail asset loan,
Yeah.
now what is the scenario there? That sort of correlation also needs to be looked at. So just to get a glimpse as to how they are actually performing.
Yeah. Shruti, any view on that?
Yeah, so we actually, and it's a good point Praveenji made, we do look at the data. So For this presentation, of course, we did limit it to microfinance only, but we do look at data for the microfinance and retail customers. So we look at customers who have a footprint in microfinance and their behavior in retail. And this is looked more both from the business and risk perspective. So for example, we look at what are the sort of products that most of these customers go for. And we'll also look at how risky or not risky these customers are compared to the overall retail customers. Praveen, you're right. I have not included that as a part of my presentation. What I could do is, possibly I get a chance again. I will include that in my next sort of analysis. I would ensure that it's a little different than what I showed today, sort of diving more onto the retail side, the loan against property side, those kind of things, because we do a lot of analysis there as well. And that's a
Sure,
really
sure.
good point. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other points?
Anyone else wants to share or highlight anything?
Hi, Shruti, thank you for very good presentation. Thanks, Gigi sir. In the month of April 2025, you made actually Sankalp 2 guidelines. I think and I assume most of the what are the data presented, even everybody is actually now having the responsible lending. That's why actually more than 2 MFI, more than 3 MFI, lenders actually it is coming down. Thanks for your efforts and educating each and every one of us. I think everybody is, it's not only the bankers have actually reduced the exposure, but they are also very careful, and banks also started actually
Ground level starts. Okay. We are discussing valuable points.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good
It's
afternoon.
Kirti Kumar from
Yes.
NAFINS.
Yes.
Sir, just 2 points I want to just add in this. First is regarding if at the time of sourcing, what we are seeing that due to the stoppage of the disbursement, like new guidelines come from the Sa-Dhan and RPI, the many of the customer they are not paying regular EMIs also because the rotation has been stopped. The loan rotation, the loan they are taking from other MFIs or SFP, it is stopped. So one of the reason that the fresh slippage is getting in the pressure in fresh linkage also. So this is the one point what the field we are facing. And second, the political interventions, especially because of some local political parties, they're creating issues in the collection. They are asking some documents to the MFIs. They are writing to the ministries also. So because of these two reasons, the power has been increased, especially in Western Maharashtra and some part of the Khandesh also, that is in North Maharashtra. So
Right.
I think this issue in we are facing in Karnataka also. So these points also we have to consider at the time of this PAR calculation.
Right. In fact, the guardrails which are laid down, it's basically help the quality of the loans to improve. Although I know it's becoming a little tough for the microfinance institutions to mobilize application, a lot of rejections have increased. But on the whole, we find that the quality of lending has improved. And yeah, in fact, the kind of practice which has been happening earlier, borrowing from one person and repaying to other, we know that it's not a healthy practice. So if that has come to an end, I think it's a good thing to happen. Maybe some temporary pain would be there, but I'm sure things would be better in the long run. As regards the political intervention or interference, we know that it happens here and there. We have to be a little careful and we have to guard ourselves against such kind of practices. We are also trying to meet the government officials and the senior government people to create an awareness to avoid this, even if when meeting with Finance Minister was there last month. We raised this point, but then it's something which beyond the control of everyone.
Gigi sir, can I say additional point?
Yeah.
I don't know whether this will be a conflict of interest for SRO, but at this stage, since you are working very hard for sensitizing the lenders to bring liquidity into the market, I think as the earlier point said, other than size of the MFI, certain critical parameters need to be identified in terms of, like, for example, collection efficiency of current demand, the productivity, certain key parameters, say the vitals, like BP, sugar, the vitals of a institution. And if we can create based on those vitals, if the MFIs give that information and we create a snapshot, then we can show a sectoral representation, and also easier for lenders to see that how on vital points the MFIs are really performing well, even during this distress situation. So
Right.
if there is an institution which has a very strong collection efficiency of the current demand, there is a very strong team and no staff attrition or frauds, and they are working in this distress, also maintaining the momentum of no delinquencies and all to or defaults and all. So 3, 4, 5 key parameters, and profiling the MFIs on that rather than conventional triple A or A or B or triple B, and or the rating exercise. And so in a way, SRO this time takes the lead in assessing the institutions on key parameters, do a profiling, and push that information to the lender institution so that they start getting the real feel of the ground and the institution, that it's not about big and small now. It's about the performance of each institution is unique in its own context, with regard to geography, presence, and those. And I think, I'm sure Bihar is on your top of your list. Elections are coming. So we need to have very proactive, preparedness measures for Bihar. Because anyway, everybody was a little concerned about Bihar, and now the elections are coming in. So that also need to be put on our agenda list, sir.
In fact, let me also bring here a couple of points of concern. One, we know that HR is a critical aspect, and as some Kiran also said, and someone else also said that more attrition means it's more difficulty for the institution. So keeping the staff tied to the organization is an important thing, for which probably we need to also work on some of the policies we have for the staff. Some of the HR policies we need to work. And as you know that we are already in the process of developing something like that. Today also, just before this, we were having a meeting on that. So we'll try to bring out something. In between, we have also seen a couple of, there is a association has been formed, All India Microfinance Employees Association or something like that they have formed. And they have put a very long posting in the LinkedIn recently, which indicates a lot of grievances. Some of them looks quite genuine also. So I will only request all the people who are sitting here or are part of this, kindly take care of the HR aspect, HR policy aspect. As I said, we are also working on that. We will bring out some kind of a general code which can be made use of by everyone. But in the meanwhile, you should also take a look at that, because keeping HR with or reducing the attrition itself is a great, I would say, a great achievement as far as keeping the quality of the assets. So now that's number one. Number two, you talked about the Bihar part of it. Bihar already we are facing some kind of issues. There are a couple of issues which RBI has also flagged to us. In one case, one of the person committed suicide, and there were cases of more number of loan accounts with that particular family. So I would only request that even if we don't do a business, please don't do bad business. If you do bad business, it's a problem for you, for everyone. So if you don't have business, you only lose that much income. But if you do a bad business, it's going to be a larger loss. So kindly take a little more care, especially in states which are critical in nature. We should also not push people too much, so that especially when the elections are coming nearer, if they get an issue out of this, they can come out with a, when we have been seeing in other parts of the country also. So keep an eye on that. And don't get into any kind of problem which can create a problem or give an issue for the politician or someone to act on and work on and come out with some kind of thing. I don't know how many of you have seen that. There was a poster circulating yesterday or day first today. That All India Women's, what is it? Development.
Women's Development Federation.
There is a women's wing of CPIM. They have given a number and they have asked for the people to come out with their views or come with their cases where they have been suffered because of some harsh treatment of it is by the All India Democratic Women's Association. It's a women's friend of CPM. They are given a number and they have asked, I think 24th and 25th, I believe, 2 days. They have asked them to come out with the cases where they have faced harsh treatment from the microfinance people. I'm saying that even the mainstream political parties are coming forward. So we have to be a bit careful about all these things. I would request everyone who are here, I'm sure some of you are leadership position, some of you are senior position. Please ensure that your team does not get into kind of a problem which can cause harm to the sector. Already we have been seeing sector is coming back to the shape, but then liquidity is an issue, definitely no doubt about it. But otherwise, the stress part of it has come to a great, I would say, control. And going forward, if the funds are also available, I'm sure the sector will come back to the old shape soon. So we are working for that. Let's not give any kind of a reason for anybody to act against us or create a problem for the sector. Thank you. So if you don't have anything, yeah.
Good evening, sir. I would like to add one single point. As per the recent guidance from regulatory side, from 25% to 40% non-qualifying asset was there. But how it is impacting in our portfolio, whether how much portfolio is covered under that regulation changes. If it is going to cover into this report, it will be very useful that how portfolio is moving towards non-qualifying side like that.
Sir, can you repeat that once again? We didn't get that.
No, sir. As per the recent RBI guidelines, 25% to 40% non-qualifying asset changes was happened. No? So how it is impacting our portfolio? How much portfolio was created? How many entities are created? That kind of portfolio. If it is there in our report, it will be very useful to understand how portfolio is moving towards how customers are getting benefit of that.
Shruti, can I ask you one question? If the microfinance sector, microfinance institutions are lending under non-qualified assets, is it getting captured under the microfinance report or microfinance, or it is under retail?
Retail.
No, it will go to retail, Gigi sir, and again, it depends what product, because retail has multiple product categories. So then we'll have to track what product they have lent into, but this will go into retail now.
How do you understand a particular institution, how much they are lent under qualified, how much they are lent under?
We don't know that. Bureaus won't have that details, that how much is it lent under qualified or non-qualified. There are loan categories like business loan, priority sector, PSL, etc. So if lend in those particular categories, we will know that this is PSL lending, because the submission itself is like BL-PSL. But say for example, it's loan against property, then there is no classification whether it's qualifying, non-qualifying, etc. So depends on the product. That's what.
So you mean to say that getting data from the Credit Information Bureau would be difficult regarding this aspect?
Yeah, but this aspect is not possible, but we will know how much is moved to retail from what is the amount that they have microfinance, they have lent to microfinance customers, what is the amount they've lent to retail customers? That we can give, but we don't know under what category.
Okay. So anyway, we will be capturing the data directly from the institutions. For our Bharat Microfinance report, we have already started capturing the data. So, but what we understand is that under the relaxed norms, so far nothing much has happened. Everyone is studying the situation, and everyone is, as Akhil Saab also said, I think Kiran also said about that. Probably one should not get into an area which they are not familiar with. So lending to non-qualified asset is not a regular. It's not the same cup of tea for the microfinance institution. They should have some expertise some experience in that. So I am sure Akhil Saab can correct me if I'm not wrong, if I'm wrong, that I think most of the MFIs are just waiting and trying to develop their capabilities. Is it correct?
Absolutely, sir. And also this 60/40 will be coming handy for the larger ones who have a larger portfolio, because the smaller and medium will not be able to take immediate advantage of it. And as you rightly said, many of us are tempted towards it, but that temptation can be very fatalistic. So we have to be very, very careful on that.
Yeah. But we'll capture it directly, getting the data directly from the chat. Yeah.
So this data point is in our quarterly microfinance report, but from the first quarter trend, because it's came in the notification late. So from the first quarter trend, we don't see much change in the qualifying assets trend.
Yeah.
But we are hoping that from the second quarter, there will be a change. So we are including this information in the report, and the report will be shortly shared with all of you.
Yeah,
I think
keeping on current discussions with the sectorial people, some of the institutions had made their decisions to move some of the customers into individual lending side through this non-qualifying asset. So by keeping these data points with us, we can understand that how small MFIs are going to get pain because of this, or how big MFIs are capturing the market of small MFIs. So
Right.
it is going to be a very useful data point for future to know how clients are moving. So
Sure.
keeping on.
Got it.
Mr. Ghosh, you want to share something?
Yes, please. I mean, this is slightly different. Coming from the fact that we are trying to recover from a slightly difficult time. And I will also go back and refer to what Kiran had pointed out with regard to the group lending model getting reworked and rebuilt while we speak. And that is a true fact. I mean, it's happening. But what we are unable to really understand is that when we approach any other borrower, probably for us could be a first cycle, but for that borrower could be anybody else's. We do not have a record of their performance with regard to their attendance, etc., in their current JLG. Is it possible to capture that data and put it as a part of the report, just the way you have your DPD buckets being for the record, and have another set of data line, which is coming at the bottom, for example, saying that, okay, the performance of this person has been, for every month I keep a record and say that, okay, now you can observe this guy is telling sort of attendance in the group meetings. So that gives us a comfort in a way, and we also can set standards later on going forward about what percentage is a sort of an acceptable percentage for anybody to come into the microfinance fold. That could be an additional field we can get created if we start working on it from now. So that's the thought which I wanted to leave everybody with.
All right. Okay. Okay.
And just adding to Jaideep's point, I think one more proposal I also have for GG and the SRO is that earlier, as you know, the Microfinance Bureau was not giving a score. So, but from 2 years back, the score has started coming. So, to Jaideep's suggestion, I think score is a great proxy for that. So, I think in our credit policies as well, I think we should start building in the score somewhere, and then take a decision on whether we need to lend to a particular customer or not, because we have seen some good results based on score based lending. So I think from microfinance standpoint as well, if our credit policies can reflect the score, I think that's a good start point for that.
Right. Okay.
No, for that, I think that the bureaus need to share what is basically the performance on a score basis. They need to give us the parameters and the ranges. Without the ranges, it's very difficult, because I've seen that, when you go beyond up to the 750 and even beyond the 750, 800 levels, you have delinquency. Between a 750 to an 800, there's not much of a difference in delinquency levels, right? But below 700, say, the borrowers start looking really bad.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So, yeah. So we've seen that, but we still need the range which is really working right now.
Yeah.
Without that,
So I
it's very
think,
difficult.
Equifax is on the line. So maybe if you could give us just one slide based on, you had talked about number of lenders and the collection efficiency linked to that. If you could just map out, Shruti, that will be very helpful for us as well in terms of the score banding of Equifax itself. how are you seeing the risk performance of those customers, right? Then I think all our members will be able to use the score much better, which is a standard in all other products, right? So already you are doing that job. So if you could present
Yeah.
that view as well. Yeah.
No, so you're very, very right. So while calibrating the score, it is not one or two variables. There are certain variables which are very, very significant. For example, the delinquencies, the leverage, the number of loans taken, for example. Number of lenders is also a variable which is there, but that doesn't come out as a significant variable for the scoring purposes. While we understand that, the SROs are a pressure, but I think in our score, at least, it's more how many loans a customer has taken. If there are more active loans, beyond a point, we see that starts having an impact on the leverage, on the delinquencies, etc. So what we can surely do is we can share a document of, which are the variables which come out as significant, which are the variables which are not that significant while scoring. To your point that, we could map it to the number of lenders, yeah, we could, but then again, that has no direct correlation, like just the
No,
lenders in
not the
itself.
lenders, Shruti. Where I
Yeah.
was coming from is based on the score bands.
Huh.
What is the delinquency you are seeing?
Yeah. That
Yeah,
is available.
that's it.
So we
Yeah,
call it the bad rate. We can
yeah, bad
absolutely
rate,
share that. Yeah.
essentially. So if you could share one slide on that, I
Yeah.
think all the members can use that as well in terms
Sure.
of, creating a credit policy. Yeah.
Yeah, we can share that. Absolutely.
Just one question for Shruti. Actually, we are procuring our credit score from one credit search, and they are giving it from Equifax. But unfortunately, there are certain loans which are not seen on the report itself, but they are already visible on CRIF as well as on other these things. So how can we solve that particular issue?
No, so Anirudh ji, this will happen for all the credit bureaus. So all of us have our own search and match algorithm. So say there are four institutions A, B, C, D, right? So A, B, C, D is all giving a loan to Anirudh ji, and they all are capturing different PII information, right? So for example, one guy has your voter ID, one person has your PAN card, one person doesn't have anything. They just have your date of birth. I'm just giving examples. So now we all have our algorithms tuned in a certain way so that we can capture some data, we can, release some data. And at the same time, the ideal is that we want to have the least false positives. So for example, we don't want to catch hold of somebody else called Anirudh, and show their data over here. So because of that varying search and match, there is going to be, no matter which bureau you take, whether it's Equifax, CRIF, TU Sibyl, you will see some difference. Ideally, the difference should not be more than 2%. So, for example, out of 100 customers, maybe 2 customers will have some changes, whether it's Equifax or CRIF or Sibyl, but more than 2% should not be there. Having said that, I can talk about Equifax because I know about Equifax more, that, we try to ensure that our search and match algorithm keeps getting revisited, keeps getting revised, because see, this is a continuous improvement process. I mean, there is nowhere where we can say that we have achieved the best. I mean, we have to keep tuning it because dynamics are changing so fast. So, we do this every month. So hopefully, the important part is also to ensure that what we are giving you is correct. Maybe there is, I mean, is that one trade line really belonging to the customer or is it to somebody else? We'll have to identify whether that's really a false positive or no. So what you could do is, if there are such cases, you could share with us our own data, Equifax's data. You can share with Equifax and say that this is what I'm finding, and we can get back to you at least on our own cases, saying whether this is, a false positive or false negative, or, this is an actual case which got missed out, whatever the case may be.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you everyone for joining us today. Now we are closing the webinar. So if you have any query on the data, you can share to us as SR, or direct towards, and we separately. And great thank you to Kiran sir and Shruti for sharing the data insights.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.